And welcome back to Fight Night here on ESPN Orlando, presented by Gators Dockside. On the phone with me right now, we have former middleweight contender and head coach of Tough Brazil, Team Vanderlei versus Team Sonnen. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, the warrior poet himself, Chael Sonnen. Chael, thanks for joining us.
I appreciate that. That was a nice introduction. I think you hit all the high spots.
You know, I've been working on that introduction all day, so to hear that coming from you, that's great.
Bravo, my man. Bravo.
Appreciate that. Chael, you're back in the USA from filming Tough Brazil. How happy to be back on American soil right now?
You know, I got to tell you, I miss those guys, man. You bond with your team over there. It's one of those experiences. Anytime you spend a couple of months, you go through an experience with some guys, you're going to bond with them. But particularly when it's got not only the highs, but the extreme lows that you see in a tournament like this. These guys put their lives on hold. Everything they prepared for one shot at their dream, which is to get into the UFC. And when it doesn't work out, that devastation, as hard as it is, it certainly helps to bring you closer together. So it's great to be in the USA, but I wish I could have brought those guys with me.
Speaking of the fighters down there in Brazil, is the level of, competition there, would you comparing that to the USA, like the USA Ultimate Fighter, compared to Tough Brazil, is the level just on another level, like higher competition?
Yeah. That's where it all originated from. So the history there, and when people watch this on UFCFightPass.com, they're going to notice that the sport is growing. Every sport does this. It doesn't matter if it's baseball, football. The teams of today will always beat the teams of yesterday. And it's the same thing in MMA. These guys were 10 years younger than me. But where they're at right now is so far above where I was 10 years ago that, if we were competing at the same time, the guys of my generation never would have had a chance. They're that good. There's that many of them. And as soon as you meet one guy and you go, wow, you got to be the greatest undiscovered talent ever, another guy walks through the door who's just as tough as the previous. So, yeah, it was incredible to see the talent.
Now, you mentioned that this is going to be on the UFC Fight Pass. March 1st is the launch. How big is the Fight Pass for the UFC?
Well, the Fight Pass is huge. If I was to compare it to a company, I would compare it to Netflix. Netflix, you can get it 24 hours a day from any internet connection. It doesn't matter if it's your laptop, your iPad, your desktop, your smartphone. And not only was Netflix used to show other people's movies. Some guys make a movie, you get it on Netflix. And then Netflix started making their own content. They started producing their own things. And that's the same thing we're doing with Fight Pass. And the UFC's never made that comparison. I'm a shareholder in Netflix, so I follow it pretty closely. And I'm looking at it going, wow, we're creating our own network here. We're not only are we showing every fight that has ever happened in the history of the UFC, all the way back to 1993. Not only is that at your fingertips if you have Fight Pass, but we're going to have original content as well that's never been shown, not on pay-per-view, not on Fox, nowhere, only on FightPass.com.
Okay, let's get into the real juicy meat and potatoes right here. Your opposing coach, Vanderlei Silva. I mean, a lot has been said back and forth between you two, but apparently things got physical in the first few days of filming?
Yeah, well, yes. Right off the bat, I suppose I'd have to search my memory a little bit, but I think it was the very first day. And so many, things aren't supposed to leak out. It's a reality show in that, you got to keep everything under wraps until it airs. But one of these got so out of hand that Dana White, our president, came out and talked about it publicly. And people will ask me about the fight with Vanderlei, and I always have to pause it because what I'm thinking is, which one? One of them got out publicly. I'm not even positive because I was sequestered which one that was, but there was a lot of altercations. I regret them tremendously. I don't think they should have happened. I think it was very unprofessional. I think it was a terrible example for the spot that he and I were in, which was a leadership role, a coaching role. And it should not have happened. And it did, and it kept happening, and I could not. Every day that I showed up, I was having to deal with his temperament, and I just had to hope that we could get through a day of being professionals and doing our job. And it was, time after time, I failed at my goal, and I got to deal with this knucklehead.
Now, the fight between you two is scheduled for May 31st, but there's rumors going circling around that Vanderlei hasn't even signed the contract for the fight yet. Is that true?
Yeah, let's clear it up. There's no rumor about it. He has not signed the contract, and he held out every stipulation in the world, and I mean, he had some weird ones, and they've come to terms on every single request he's made, and he still hasn't signed the contract. So now he's saying verbally that it's on. He's saying, "Oh, I'm going to do it." The question becomes, well, what, is your fax machine broken? Why are you not sending this one piece of paper with your signature back? And I don't know the answer, but that's why I'm bringing him up. I'm trying to goad him into it. I'm trying to put pressure on him. I'm trying to ridicule him if I have to, but we need that signature.
Right, and if anybody can goad somebody into a fight, it's got to be Chael Sonnen. I mean, we saw.
I got to think you said that well.
I got to ask a question about another rumor that's been flying around the UFC. Kind of your buddy, CM Punk, was seen ringside sitting next to Dana White at the past UFC pay-per-view. And there's always been rumors he left the WWE and he might want to try MMA. What's your thoughts on CM Punk?
Well, I know that he does want to fight. I do not know if he wants to leave wrestling or if he has left wrestling. I've heard that too, that he's in some dispute over there. And I've asked him flat out, and I know that he does want to fight. The rest of it he plays very, very close. My wife gave him a big hug when she saw him, said, "How you doing?" And he responded, "I'm unemployed. Life is great." So I really don't know what he's going to do. I'm a wrestling fan, so I'd like to see him return. But I know he wants to do MMA. I know he trains MMA. If he's going to ever make it to the UFC, I think that's a pretty lofty goal. He's he's about 35 years old, and to make that transition's never been done before. But he's got the star power, and he's also got a history of training. I guess I'd have to see him with my own eyes, and before I called Dana White and said, "Hey, this guy's ready for the octagon." But I can tell you, if he did, whether it was the UFC or someone else, I would tune in. If he was fighting, I would tune in.
I think a lot of people would too. He is Chael Sonnen, UFC middleweight, coach of Tough Brazil, Team Vanderlei versus Team Sonnen. On March 9th is the premiere on UFC Fight Pass. Chael, we cannot wait to see you hopefully back in the octagon on May 31st. Hopefully you can drop some more poetry on us along the way too. Thank you very, very much for stopping by.
And hey, man, I got to clear something up. A bunch of my fans got mad at me on Twitter yesterday because apparently we weren't clear. Our product is called UFC Fight Pass, and I keep telling people that. But you can't. If you want to log on, you have to go to UFCFightPass.com. And I continually forget to say the .com part, and I had all sorts of people writing me yesterday. UFCFightPass.com. Watch me in Vanderlei March 9th.
All right. He is Chael Sonnen. And Chael, thanks for stopping by.
Cool. See you, buddy.